Baltimore, Maryland is the home to the beautiful Inner Harbor, Fort McHenry, the birthplace of the Star-Spangled Banner, prestigious universities, and renowned sports teams. There is a darker side to Baltimore, unknown to many of its citizens. Given its location on the Interstate 95 corridor, its port, and proximity to multiple airports, Baltimore is the perfect location for a booming business for sex trafficking. This is one victim's story.
My name is Valeria. Most people call me Val. I'm 20 years old. I came to US from Kyiv, Ukraine. I used to study linguistics back home. I came here to practice my English. My first job in Baltimore I was a waitress at Sip and Buy Diner. There I met a guy who used to be our steady customer. He told me I was so beautiful and he would help me to find a job as a model. He showered me with gifts, he bought me flowers. He took care of me and I trusted him. But then he told me I owed him. He told me I had to pay him back. Then he gave me smack. Once I tried it, I was hooked. I escaped and he beat me up. He told me I can leave only in a body bag from here. Everyone calls me Val. For my clients, I'm nameless.
We asked 3 experts in human sex trafficking to share their experiences.
My name is Tom Stack. I'm the human trafficking coordinator for Baltimore City. I work out of the mayor's office. I work in the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. And I'm also co-chair of the Baltimore City Human Trafficking Collaborative, which is our citywide task force. So I did Montgomery County Police for 26 years, and my last 14 of my career, I was in our vice unit and human trafficking unit. So I was a detective in that. So that's where all my experience with human trafficking, most of it comes from hands-on learning, and actually dealing with girls or survivors in a hotel setting or different types of settings, and then also investigating and locking up traffickers. I started to realize that no girl ever in their life when they were young wanted to be a prostitute. You can't convince me otherwise. Because back when we were all in middle school or whatever, we took those tests and what do you want to be when you grow up? Doctors, nurses, baseball players. Nobody ever said they wanted to be a hooker. The Blue Dot program that we've implemented in Baltimore City is the gold standard across the country for any large city that's working on human trafficking efforts, to have a coordinated 24-hour response that has multiple partners to it, that's based out of a hospital setting. It's one of a kind that we know of. We kind of keep it under wraps. Mm-hmm. Because not many, outside of the human trafficking world, nobody knows what it is. And traffickers don't know what it is. And survivors really don't know what it is until we explain it to them. But so to speak, you don't need that forced fraud or coercion or under the age of 18 to go to Blue Dot. If you're a sex worker, you're out there and you're a heroin addict and you've finally hit rock bottom and you want out, we're going to get you. We got you. We got you covered. And then from there, they offer you whatever you want. We've had survivors come in, all they want to do is get 3 hours of sleep, uninterrupted sleep. All right, go take a nap. We'll talk to you when you come out. We offer everything. We offer a sexual assault exam. We offer STD testings. We HIV testings. We offer any kind of medical need that they have. Whether they need stitches or a broken arm or X-rays, they got all that covered. They offer them food. They offer them change of clothes. They offer them housing. They offer, detox. They have peer recovery specialists on site. Come down there and talk to them about detox, especially the girls who are sex workers. They all want detox. Take it to Philly. If you want an Uber ride to DC or to the Metro, that's what you get. If you want the whole 9 yards, you want everything under the sun, we'll give it to you. We can link on the housing. We can long-term case management with Turnaround or Aramenta or one of our other partners. So it's really, it's like a big buffet that the survivor can look at and pick and choose what they want. And so, I can go back into my law enforcement career because when I first came into our vice unit, there was no such thing as human trafficking. It was there, but no one knew what it was. I never heard of it. So I was pretty much just locking people up. Never thought of it one way or the other. It's a crime. If the pimp was there, he just happened to be collateral damage. I lock them both up. That's just the way it was until I started to learn about human trafficking and started to see the victimization. And so what we teach them to do at that point is to plant the seed and just say to them, listen, I'm not here to lock you up. I'm here to help you. I can tell you right now, if you don't have any warrants on you, I got to run a warrant. If you don't have any warrants, you're free to go. But if you need help, I can help you. I can take you right now, go someplace safe, secure. No one will know where you are. And from there, you can start your life again. And you can get back into trying to get what you need to help you out, get out of the game, get out of the life.
I'm Katie O'Connor. I'm a physician at Hopkins in emergency medicine, anesthesia, and critical care. I am the chair of the Johns Hopkins Hospital Human Trafficking Task Force and also a physician member on the Bayview and the Baltimore City and State Task Force. I work throughout the hospital, in the emergency room, in the ICU, in the OB clinics, outpatient clinics, and everywhere that I work, there are victims and survivors of human trafficking. And they can be anywhere on the spectrum from not quite yet ready to even acknowledge it and the patients I just suspect, but maybe I'm not sure, all the way to the patients who are fully ready to leave that life and just want some advice on how to really do that. But most of the patients actually fall into the middle group where they are, with some conversation, able to disclose a little bit about what's going on in their life, but they're not quite ready to make any next steps. And so they're really just looking for additional information or even just the reassurance to know that they could get out, that there are options, and they'll let us know when they're ready. One particular patient that I will always think about whenever I'm thinking of trafficking was a young woman who came in with a life-threatening bacterial infection. We had her ready to go to the operating room. It was that serious. Everything was lined up. And as we were waiting, she had a male visitor come in and was sitting with her. About 5 minutes later, the nurse came to let me know that the patient had actually decided she was going to leave against medical advice. And, I was wondering what happened. So I went into the room and talked to her alone without the male visitor, just asked him to wait out in the hall. And after some discussion, thought maybe it was just anxiety about the operation, she was able to share with me that she was experiencing trafficking, and she also shared that some of that involved violence, and she showed some of her injuries to me as well. Unfortunately, after much discussion, including the male visitor and letting him know the importance of this operation, they decided that she was not able to stay for that. And in Maryland, we are not mandatory reporters. There's nothing we can do, so we just had to let her go. And as she was leaving, I said, I'm working tomorrow. If for some reason you want to come back, please come back. It was sort of a shot in the dark, but she actually came back and asked for me by name. And we were able to rush her to the operating room because the infection had certainly not gotten any better. And it was, for me, a good example that sometimes helping trafficking victims is not about necessarily insisting that they follow the pathway of leaving the life. And sometimes it is about serving them and meeting them exactly where they are and making accommodations to help them how we can help them, and letting them know that there are also other options later, that if they're not ready now, that we will be there whenever they're ready. I encourage all of the clinicians I work with to really put themselves in the shoes of these patients and remember that often the circumstances that led to this patient being in this life were completely circumstantial, had nothing to do with anything that the patient did. They did not bring this on themselves. And really, this could be any one of us if things were different. And so really asking them to look inward and to imagine what it might be like to feel like that. So for some specific patients, I will often actually work with my colleagues and give some additional details. I'm from Baltimore. I personally know people that have gone through this experience. And so even sometimes that is a way I will use to encourage that level of empathy, that these are not others. These are not strangers. These are us. These are our friends, our colleagues. It could be any one of us, and really walking them through
my
that.
name is Chelsea Haverly. I am the owner of Anchored Hope Therapy. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a trainer for the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force Victim Service Subcommittee, and I am the statewide trauma consultant for that committee. I am a master social worker from the University of Maryland School of Social Work, and I practice locally as a trauma therapist and also consult across. So often I see survivors appear either shut down or very hyper alert, depending on the day and depending on what they're managing. I see a lot of memory difficulty and dissociation. And also some comorbid substance use issues. So if they're very fresh out of the life, I don't see very many physical complaints in the beginning. Usually when they're in that heightened state of chronic stress, a lot of their physical symptoms are being suppressed. So their bodies haven't yet manifested somatically when they're really, really new out of the life. What usually happens in ongoing work or ongoing meetings is when they start to feel better, like physically feel better or physically feel more safe, their physical symptoms go up. So I hear a lot of pelvic pain reports, back pain, headaches, dental issues, sometimes just chronic pain and inflammation in multiple areas of the body. I've also had clients who had head injuries who have not had an assessment of the impact of a concussion or recurrent concussions. If they were repeatedly beaten when they were in the life, they're likely to have undiagnosed or untreated head injuries. So sometimes what appears to be a memory issue or dissociation could actually be an untreated concussion. So I think it's really helpful to normalize and to help survivors know that their bodies start to feel worse when they start to maybe mentally start to feel better, and just normalize that as part of the process. Usually there's a lot of collaboration that has to happen to help support them in getting housing, employment, daycare. There's a lot of moving parts and juggling. It's very easy to go back to the life because it's in some ways that what they know, what they can depend on. Really empowering choice, I think, is huge, because if our systems, our programs, our agenda is to tell them what would be healing, what they should do, then our systems recreate PIMP control dynamics, and we just feed into what they've already come out of, and we're not giving them that power and control back. We're taking it if we're not careful.
Are physicians in training able to identify them? Could more education help?
The Baltimore area, we definitely talk about sex trafficking frequently and are concerned about it. I personally am not sure about the magnitude of the problem. I've heard that it definitely exists in the city and is a problem, but haven't had particularly much personal exposure to it.
And someone like me who personally has only been training for 2 years, I don't know all the signs to really recognize individuals who would be at higher risk. So I think having training to really pinpoint those characteristics to really look forward to flag people as possible.
I think that this is an aspect of our training that there is a little bit of a gap. And, as a provider that has to deal with women that are in really vulnerable positions, it would be absolutely invaluable. And, part of the problem is feeling helpless in these situations, helpless to help these women, and any tool that we can have to promote identifying these people would be essential.
Dr. Mindy Christensen is an associate professor in obstetrics and gynecology at Johns Hopkins University and helps train OBGYN residents.
Our innovative solution to help assist human sex trafficking victims in the Baltimore area is called STEP. STEP stands for Sex Trafficking Escape Program. The goal of STEP is to provide standardized training for obstetrics and gynecology residents in programs across the Baltimore area. This will include several hospitals. The goal is to identify victims of human sex trafficking and for those patients to provide appropriate help and resources. STEP will be designed as a nonprofit grant-supported educational program. In implementing STEP, the first step will be a series of grand rounds presentations on human sex trafficking at major hospitals in the Baltimore area. This will include University of Maryland affiliated hospitals, MedStar affiliated hospitals, Johns Hopkins affiliated hospitals, which would include 3 hospitals, Greater Baltimore Medical Center, as well as Sinai Hospital. We will also develop specific training curriculum for human sex trafficking for the obstetrics and gynecology residents. We are planning to implement 2 one-hour sessions for obstetrics and gynecology residents at each program. The first session will be covering the topic of human sex trafficking recognition and screening, and the second session will involve human sex trafficking response and resources to help these patients. By implementing the STEP program across multiple hospitals with multiple obstetrics and gynecology residents, there will be a multitude of resources available to help these patients.
Val's story had a happy ending. This is not true for many victims.
It took me a few tries. I kept going back and back, but I finally got out of the life. I remember I got to the hospital because he beat me up, and I will never forget that young doctor. She was just so kind and nice to me. She asked all of those questions. She was the one who helped me. I was ready for help then. And now I have a good life. I'm married. I have a 1-year-old boy. I'm working towards my bachelor's degree, and I'm happy. I still remember everything. And I work so hard to forget.
We can save lives through the STEP program. Victims need our help, our support, our kindness, our compassion. Let's take that step together. Let's work to end sex trafficking in the Baltimore region.